in the case of women, wow, I mean, I'm still trying to digest some of what I heard because it was just, you know, incredibly emotional. I heard from one young woman who had a 3-4-year-old who was raped in front of her son, and is still, and of course they're outcast, right? They're thrown away by their husbands, by their family. They're fortunately some really good initiatives that the UN has been able to put, UNFPA in the safe houses. So these are temporary structures and facilities, and they were just asking to get on with their lives and a livelihood. They needed to move past it. Staying in the situation they found themselves was, I think, further psychological torture. It is just not possible. You just looked at the faces. One lady may have told me of her own experience, but the others that were there to say to you, well, these are the ones that we have. I mean, they had them on the camera. I mean, it's horrible what has happened. You cannot imagine it, as I say, in your worst nightmare. I certainly won't forget. She, in a very calm way, she's, you know, refusing to be a victim. She wants to be a survivor. She wants to move on with her child. She knows that if she doesn't get past it, she lives in a living memory of hell. In Tigray, I met with 2 young women, and I mean, hundreds of women went through that center. With, I don't know how that nurse survives mentally just dealing with all of that, but she does. I think they have a lot of faith in that country. They seem to lean on God an awful lot. But these 2 women, I mean, the first woman to tell me about the gang rapes, it wasn't once. It was over and over again, moving from place to place, to have, and she just wanted to move on. She didn't want to be in a safe house anymore. She wanted us to find, you know, how could she have a livelihood? And you know, still a survivor, not a victim. Because from all of that, she has a 5-month-old son. And she's just trying to survive and take her son with her. Because the society, again, has thrown them away. And this is something that I mentioned to all the leaders that I met. And I did meet the leader in TPLF, and just to say that, you know, when men go to war, they come back and they're heroes. Doesn't matter any injury that they have, right? But women have been injured in a way that is unimaginable. And yet they're not coming back and heroes. They're just outcast. And that has to stop. Now, that wasn't in every region. The region that I experienced where the men were outraged because of what had happened to their women. And that was in Afar. There is some unspoken cultural, whatever you like to call it, where men just don't touch women in war. They are, you know, that's the code of conduct, if you would, for it. But here, where, you know, they had witnessed their women being killed and being harmed, this was something I think they'll find very difficult to get over. So the different aspects of where people feel the pain of this war, it has to be taken into that conversation of national dialogue, the accountability for it, some reconciliation. This is, of course, not the first conflict that we have seen in Ethiopia, but perhaps we can learn for this, and maybe we in the international community to really speak to what is unacceptable today. It's unacceptable that one human being would do that to another. And that, I think, was what I took away from this, and the messages that I gave to the leaders across the board.
And was there, you mentioned the 5-month-old baby, is that child as a result of rape? Is there an issue we've seen in other countries where there's a lot of children born of rape?
Yes, I mean, because, you know, this is some of what happens is that children are born of rape. We saw that in Boko Haram in northeast Nigeria, many. And for those children, what the future holds. If they're brought back into their communities, that would be something else. But we know that culturally and otherwise, it's very unlikely. They would move on. If they stayed, they would have a life that would be incredibly difficult.
And sorry, just with your conversation with the leaders in Tigray, I mean, are you getting the sense from all the ladies you spoke to that there's a way out of this?
Yes, I think so. I think that they are hopeful. I mean, look, first and foremost, the message to me from all of them was that this was going to be done the Ethiopian way, and they were going to find an Ethiopian solution to it. They did not exclude that they would not have mediation from Africa or from the United Nations, but they were very fixed on finding the end to their problems themselves in all cases. They certainly from the TPLF side, what they wanted, humanitarian assistance to come through, the lift of the siege, the cessation of the hostilities, and then, the ability to engage in the national dialogue.
Thank you. We'll go to the screen. Margaret Bashir, Voice of America. Maggie?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Deputy